Kimberly Lawrence, CST 314, speech number 2. The audience. So the book that we'll be using tonight is How to Talk, so kids will listen, and Listen so kids will talk. It is by Adele Faber and Elaine Mislish. The book is meant to help you as an adult know how to speak more clearly with children in a way that they're willing to hear, and to listen to them in ways where they're more willing to speak to you. In the book, they provide several spaces where you can reflect on what they've said, what you think, what you would like to work on. There are also several areas in the book where they use cartoons as examples to kind of lighten the mood and to help find humor in what can sometimes be challenging. One of the main things that they ask in the book is, when you're speaking to a child, is this something that you would say to a peer? So keep that in mind as we go through this. Is this something that you would say to your friend or to a coworker? And if you wouldn't, question why you would speak that way to a child. Again, this is the second speech. I'm Kimberly Lawrence, and it is for CST 314. Go ahead again. Thank you. All right. The learning objective for this is to model ways that, model ways to talk to kids using the instead of examples, and also relate a time when one strategy presented would have improved the outcome of the conversation that you've had with another child. All right, I want you to think for a moment. Have you ever found yourself struggling to communicate with a child or a student? Talking to adults can be challenging sometimes. Talking to kids can feel impossible at others. Good communication improves educational outcomes for your children and for students alike. The relevance of this book is the majority of us are going into education. The rest of us have a high likelihood of having children of our own, or we will fall into one or both of these categories. If you don't fall into any of these categories, there are strategies that you can use to help talk to adults who sometimes act like children. When it comes to talking with kids, remember that they are not little adults. They do not have the life experiences that you and I have, and they do not have the ability to cognitively reason through what you are saying to them, and they do not have the ability to infer the message when you're not clear. You show that. Thank you. All right, so first off, there are 6 chapters in the book. The first one is helping children deal with their feelings. The second is engaging cooperation. These are the 2 chapters that I'm going to focus on primarily in this discussion. The other chapters are alternatives to punishment, which explores first why we feel we need to punish, whether or not punishment is actually effective, and it introduces the difference between consequences and punishment. The next one is encouraging autonomy. This concept allows children to make mistakes. They need to make mistakes to learn, and they need to make the mistakes in order to apply situations to future encounters. They also encourage you as the adult not to rush in and answer everything. Let them struggle a little bit. The next chapter was praise. And instead of placing a value on something, you did a good job, what a great idea, they want you to actually describe what you see for a child And one of the examples that they used is you finished your math facts and started reading your AR book. Thank you for being on task. They suggest emphasizing what it is you actually want them to be doing. You don't want them to be good, that's abstract. You want them to be on task. So tell them what it is that they've accomplished. The next one is freeing children from playing roles. And this is where we, sometimes as parents or as educators, have a child and we see them, this student is a talker. This child doesn't clean their room. And to take them out of that role and allow them to succeed and create their own roles. Okay, helping children deal with their feelings and engage in cooperation. Go ahead. One of the quotes in the book is, there's a direct connection between how kids feel and how they behave. And I found this to be quite profound. You can often see in students that how they feel about a subject or how they feel about their role in the classroom really is reflective of how they behave. Okay, go ahead. All right, the first chapter is helping children deal with their feelings. So in the first section, they discuss listening. And this is where our instead of exercises come in. So when you're listening to a child, instead of half listening and being distracted by other things, your electronics or the football game or an email that you need to be returning to another teacher, stop what you're doing, turn to the child, focus on them, and see what it is that they need from you at that time. The next one is hold your words. Instead of questions and advice, try acknowledging what is happening with words. So one example is a child may come to you and say, somebody took my jacket. And you say to them, I told you to put it in your backpack. If you listened to me, you would have your jacket and I wouldn't have to replace it. And you get into this dialogue with your child of reprimanding them or nagging at them. So instead of doing that, they suggest trying something more to the effect of, when the child comes to you and says, somebody took my jacket, your response is simple and it's short. And you say, oh really? You allow them to answer. And oftentimes they come up with their own solution at that point, which is, it was on my desk, I'm going to check lost and found, and next time I'm going to put it in my backpack. They know what is expected of them. The next suggestion is acknowledge the feelings. So instead of denying the feeling, such as a child is crying and not responding because they're angry, that they don't get to go to the rain or go to the carnival because it is raining. Instead of getting angry and telling them not to act like a spoiled brat, try giving that feeling that they're encountering a name. Try saying something like, I see you're disappointed. I know you were looking forward to the carnival. Is there something else you want to do that isn't outside? Actually say, I see you're disappointed, so they can take that word and apply it to what they're feeling. The next is embrace the feeling. So now that we know what the feeling is, we're going to actually be okay with it. So the instead of explanation and instead of giving them an explanation and dealing in logic, such as Junior's upset at the store because buying a new toy today is not an option, leading to a power struggle of I want the toy versus you are not getting the toy. Thus, attempting to explain what a budget is and why the toy is not in the budget. Instead, give the child their wish in a fantasy. And this is actually one of my favorites. Junior, I wish I could buy you this toy, and this toy, and this toy, and a pony, and go to Disneyland, And as the wish gets more and more grand, physically move away from the item and start to head into a fun fantasy type game with them. Have I ever done this with you guys? Do we ever get silly and make up? How great would it be if we could?
No.
No.
Not that I remember.
We never do it.
I don't know.
You don't know? All right.
I don't remember.
The second quote from the book that I really enjoyed was, "Steady denial of feelings can confuse and enrage kids. It also teaches them to not know what their feelings are and to not trust them." So the more you tell them, you're not mad, you're not sad, you're not excited, you're not whatever it is you're telling them they're not, they learn that they can't trust their own emotions and they learn not to feel them. Chapter 2, engaging cooperation. So again, in the same model of the instead ofs. So instead of, Aiden, you left the bathroom light on, go turn it off. Try something like, Aiden, the bathroom light's on. And often they will choose to go turn it off. You didn't have to nag them. All they needed was that little reminder of, I missed something, and they'll go back and do it. The next step was to give information. So when you are trying to get them to cooperate with you, give them information. Instead of saying, who shoved chocolate down the couch seats? Because this encourages them to point fingers and to create lies, to protect themselves, to not get in trouble. Instead of creating this situation that, quite frankly, it doesn't matter who stuffed chocolate down the couch, right? It matters that the chocolate's not in the couch. You may want to try. Chocolate on the couch can stain. I need both of you to come clean it up. It gives them direction. It tells them what it is that needs to be done and why it needs to be done. Say it with a word. Instead of the morning rigmarole, everyone trying to get out the door and yelling and just hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I told you to brush your teeth. I told you to brush your teeth 10 minutes ago. I tell you every morning to brush your teeth. Why am I telling you to brush your teeth again? I'm nagging. Don't do it. Ask once or twice. If you don't get the results you want, you say, boys, teeth. The point is there. They know what it is you want. They don't need you to nag them. They need streamlined to the task at hand. The next step in getting the cooperation that you want is to talk about your feelings. So instead of saying, stop that, tap me one more time, say something more to the effect of, when I'm talking, I don't like it when you tap me to get my attention. You've turned, you've acknowledged them, you've given them your attention, and you've told them how you feel about what they're doing. If you just stop that when the student is standing there tapping you and you're trying to send an email, they don't know what it is you want them to stop. So be specific. Tell them how you feel about it and what it is that you want them to stop. Write a note. Sometimes, when the nagging gets old, you can do something simple like leave a little note that says, find joy in the ordinary, even if it's doing dishes. And you might get your 14-year-old to do the dishes. So remember when you're using these steps, that if you wouldn't necessarily say it to a coworker, you may not want to say it to your children or to your students. You wouldn't tell a coworker, stop crying. You would actually say to them, seems like you're upset today, right? So edit what comes through your mouth with would I say it to an adult? As adults who intend to work with children, we can always use new ideas and strategies in talking to kids. The more ideas and tools that we have at our disposal, the more skilled we can be in avoiding needless stressors with our students and improve the educational outcomes. It's my intent that when you complete this experience, you will have new options in communicating. When we feel heard and students feel heard, the task of learning is much more effective and less stressful. So, Olivia, can you tell me an example of an instead of? What is a negative that you would hear?
Instead of like going on about how I didn't do the dishes, like maybe tell positives of what would happen if I did do the dishes, or just say what you would say to an adult, because that makes them feel respected.
Such as?
Can you please do the dishes for me? Or find joy in the ordinary.
All right. Can you relate a time when one of these strategies would have improved the outcome of the conversation you had?
Yeah, like when it's, who put the chocolate in the couch? Sometimes, like one time I erased something on the whiteboard and then we were all getting in trouble and I lied about it and said it wasn't me. But that actually got us all in trouble, and it was actually just a simple thing that escalated, and it didn't have to be a big
How
thing.
could that have been handled better in your eyes?
Maybe just, guys, don't erase the whiteboard. That's important information.
Great. Thank you. Do you have a question, Ethan?
Not really a question, but an add-on.
Okay.
Instead of saying I know it was lit, and even though I didn't go in the kitchen where it was, I just said I did it, Baba.
Oh. Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. That concludes my speech.